here in my garage.
Welcome to the Tai Lopez Show. I got Sean Bono on. From gang member to exiting a cannabis company for $6.5 million, living in Costa Rica. We got cartel stories. He's like me. We both had complicated dads. Sadly, your dad was murdered when you were a little kid. My dad went to prison when I was a little kid. So welcome to the show, man. Welcome to the show. We're gonna talk a little. He was so you were in the Filipino gangs. My dad, like I said, is from Harlem. He was more in the Spanish Harlem gangs, before the modern gangs. But yeah, welcome to you've been living in Costa Rica.
Loving it and loving life too. 4 wives.
You're an extremist though. You went from one extreme, gang, cannabis. Now you're like, let me go. Do you surf?
I surf.
You have kids?
I have 2 kids and one coming in December.
Congrats.
Thank you, man.
So same mom?
No mom.
No mom.
I got a vasectomy and put my sperm in a bank, and now I just buy eggs.
So this is IVF surrogate
That's
stuff.
right. That's right. That's the.
So how's that working out?
No divorce.
No divorce. That's what's the secret to no divorce? Never get married.
Get a vasectomy.
What's the secret to never going broke? Never make money. Never get rich.
Well, I remember, like, for some reason, right after I made money, I was so lucky to make. I made my first $1 million before I was 25. The first thing I did was research how to lose $1 million.
Right.
And as I was doing my research, the same consistent story was having a bunch of baby mamas will make you lose your money so fast.
Yes.
So that
Depends what state you're in, what country. Are the women Americans or from all over the world? Or you don't even know, you never met them. It's just the eggs.
Well, I go through I use a concierge and then the catalog, and then we pick out I go for height first.
Yep.
And then I go for mental health, and we do a whole biological history.
How old's the oldest kid?
They're twins. They're 4.
4, okay.
I picked a boy and a girl.
And you have surrogate. The surrogates stay around or just give birth?
No, just give birth.
Were they American surrogates?
American, yeah. Yeah, it's more cleaner and more legally.
Yeah, I read there's a millionaire somewhere like Bulgaria who just had 22 kids with his wife in 1 year. She flushed her eggs, put in the country. I don't know if it's Romania, Bulgaria. It's like $10,000 for a woman to carry. And so she had 20, is either 21 or 22. Then he went to prison for something else, but she plans to have 102. I don't know where they got that oddly specific numbers, like 100 or 102 children with the man. But you've had them all from one woman.
No.
Because you have twins.
Yeah, that group of eggs, but okay. She only gave 5 eggs.
Okay.
And now I have another batch of eggs coming.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're like on the Elon Musk route. You got the different kind of.
Bro, if you have an abundance of love and abundance of money, why not have a lot of kids, you know?
I like that.
Yeah.
That's good.
And you got to have a nanny team. So you have to have a team.
That's why in Costa Rica, the nanny team not as expensive as Beverly Hills. Yeah. Beverly Hills nanny team, too much money. What does it cost in Costa Rica to have a nanny?
A good one?
Yeah. $2,000?
$2,000.
Yeah, $2,000. Good one in LA gonna be $17,000 with benefits, all this stuff. So yeah,
that's right.
And you're a part Filipino. One time I did the math.
I'm full Korean. I was just in a Filipino gang.
Oh, you're Korean. Okay, you threw me. So you were telling me you're a Filipino gang. How'd that work? They accept
I was the only Korean in a Filipino gang.
So what city is your family from? Were they born here?
They're from Korea, but we pretty much live in Koreatown.
But were you born where?
I was born in Guam.
Okay.
My dad got murdered, and then we come straight to.
Was he military?
No, he was a musician.
In Guam? I always think of Guam as like military and strippers.
Yeah.
Those are two things I think about Guam. You ever meet somebody, you're like, if it's a woman, you're like, military.
Grandma had a strip club.
Your grandma had a strip club. I don't know what it is about Guam. I ain't never been there, but there's a magnetic vibration manifestation of military and strippers. Yeah. Military stripper.
Yeah, my grandma had the first strip club there.
Really?
70s.
And she was Korean.
She's Korean. It was like.
So she was like
an amazing woman.
Boss woman.
Bro, she no English, had no money, made the first strip club in Guam, and made millions in the 70s.
Sheesh.
Single woman.
See, it's in your blood, entrepreneurship.
She is extreme.
Once you're over 25 years old, my brother, you better be careful with your body. Pro athletes. I remember first time I sat on the floor of the Lakers at a Laker game. Pau Gasol walks out 2013, I think. He does the full splits either direction before he was warm. I forget which boxer it is, Teofimo or Triple G or one of those guys. He has a 45-minute warm-up before he starts boxing. And these guys are already in the best shape in the world. And then I see dudes that ain't pro athletes and they're like, oh, I don't warm up. I said, bro, I got a prediction for you. Either it'll be a tomorrow or it'll be in a year. And prediction is like Mr. T. Pain. And your neck is all messed up. I'm not trying to have no empathy for you, but and don't roll in jiu-jitsu with white belts. Unless what belt are you?
No belt.
Oh, no belt? Yeah, but what are your skills? Like blue, purple?
I'll probably be a purple. Just because I've been doing it for 20 years.
Yeah, but you need to, I mean, I've been doing it since 2002 also.
Yeah.
But not always with a gi. And not professionally, but I'm just saying I only grapple when you're an entrepreneur, you only do privates. I ain't going to any classes. I have when I'm in Europe, I do classics, but you get hurt in classes with white belts. Okay, you ain't trying to be a pro fighter, then don't give up the pro fighting game.
All this was back in 2002 and 2000.
I know, but you just hurt your neck now.
I hurt my neck years ago, and I had to get.
But I'm saying, did it just flame up right now because of jujitsu?
It's always like if I turn my neck to the left, my arm goes numb. This is
dude. You also need not just stem cells, but you should go to an osteopath. They're specialists in the skull and manipulating this. They're medical doctors in America. It's a little bit harder than becoming a chiropractor.
Yeah.
So I would go nuts with an osteopath, those cranial adjustment stuff, because it's all intertwined. And do you do any like physical therapy?
No, just
now you need those people that do the like myofascial release stuff. Dude, people laughed. Scientists laughed in the 60s and 70s at things like massage, at things like osteopath. Guess who laughs last? All those alternative things work. Acupressure works. Acupuncture works. It just don't work for everybody. That's what it's not. And people say, well, there's no science. I'm like, yeah, because pharmaceutical companies fund most of the science in America, and they have zero incentive to come up with a solution that's not a pill.
Right.
I mean, if I own a pharmaceutical company, you think I'm going to be like, oh, let me fund a acupuncturist to see if acupuncture, which we make no money on, is as effective as me giving people this little pill. So, but, Michael Milken's an interesting story. Like the original venture capitalist ended up getting railroaded, put in prison for insider trading. By the way, he got put in prison for doing something illegal that wasn't illegal in the year that he did it. Then they changed the law, backdated him, and sent him to prison. Totally got screwed over in the American justice system. But he got cancer. This is a multi-billionaire. Here in Beverly Hills, he used to have the biggest, he's like the original Wolf of Wall Street, right? And he got cancer, I forget, in his 50s. He got out of prison. And so he put in millions of dollars of testing every alternative thing. And he's like, massage, and FDA and all that won't make you make those claims. Bullshit. You don't think getting more blood circulation to an area of the body? Now, if you have advanced cancer, obviously you can't just, let me do a little massage on this 6-inch tumor on somebody's brain. But what led up to it? Blood flow carries the antibodies. The immune system flows through the blood and kills stuff before it starts. So Michael Milken's like, yo, he's in his 60s. He's like, you want to live forever? Do massage. I try to do massage. I have a massage. I tell people, your first 50 grand, buy a massage chair. Your first 10 grand of profit, you buy what I have right there, a treadmill desk for 2 grand. I want to start a treadmill desk company.
Yeah, I just bought one for my friend yesterday.
Your first, not a standing desk. For the love of God, standing with with knees locked is the worst. It's better to sit than have a standing desks are nonsense. You don't even feel good when you sit. But a treadmill desk, then when you make your first 50 G's, you immediately buy a massage chair. They cost about 5 to 10 grand. You can still get massage too, but you get that. When you make your first meal, you immediately buy a farm so you can grow your own food, raise your own family. So there's an echelon of exactly how you spend your profits. First 10, treadmill. First 50, massage. First meal. And you notice it's all about farm. You notice all about health.
I have a question.
Yep.
Would you rather be, like, let's say on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 is master. Would you rather master 3 things in life, skills, or 50 things at level 7?
Yeah. So should you be a jack of all trades or a master? Great book on this called Range. People who have broad skills now are actually the ones who really win big. So people say, oh, to win big, you should be a hyper specialist. Bullshit. You think Elon Musk a hyper specialist? No, no, no. Nah, that's not how it works. I think Mark Zuckerberg studied psychology and then he learned tech and he was broad based. So our mentor, Joel Salatin and Alan Nation used to say, be eclectic.
Right.
Now, it'd be better. You need something that you have mastery in. You need to be a 9 or a 10 at something. But it's total falsehood that a man or a woman can just be a 10 at one thing. Oh, so then your body's just going to decay? That's what happened to Steve Jobs. He was one of the greats of all time at building wealth and entrepreneurship. He was a moron with health. He was a true moron.
Yeah.
And with love, he was a true moron.
He even said that at the end on his deathbed.
Yeah, I mean, after eating 5,000 bananas and then having pancreatic cancer, whoa, I wonder what flooding your body with too many grams of sugar could day. I mean,
hence why I don't do jujitsu anymore.
Hey Siri, how many grams of sugar are in a banana? I forget what the exact, let's see. 18. 18. So let's call it 20. What could go wrong if you have 30 bananas a day? A good 600 grams of sugar into the bloodstream. What could go wrong? Maybe a pancreas. Maybe something like that. Now, again, maybe it's randomness, but I mean, you certainly don't increase the odds. Well, one year, he only had lemon drop soup. Another time, Steve Jobs. Now, he's not here to defend himself, so I hate to talk shit about a dead man because maybe he has another side of the story and maybe they're not telling the truth. But, you know, he had a kid with a woman. She got pregnant. He said, I don't like you as a woman. You should abort this baby. And she chose to not have an abortion, and he disowned his daughter. And while he was a billionaire in San Francisco, his daughter grew up in poverty with no heat on, freezing as a teenager. I mean, Steve Jobs is a guy who was a specialist, but would you want that to be you or would you want to be your son? Hell no. I would consider that a failure.
I mean, that's why there's a specific reason for me to do jujitsu.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that I can defeat 99% of men on this planet.
Yeah, but the problem with doing jujitsu to be able to defeat, I saw, what's the UFC guy? One of the UFC guys, he said, you know how great it feels to be able to walk around and knowing I can defeat every man. You ever heard of gunpowder? The Chinese invented it. What are you talking about? You're going to go out the street? That's not, dude, I was born in Long Beach, Compton. My dad was in prison. My dad's from Harlem. If you ever spend time on the streets and you think you're going to jujitsu fist fight your way through, you'll be dead in 6 months, brother.
Yeah.
People, did you grow up in the ghetto?
Well, not exactly.
Okay, I can tell because people think I've been doing MMA and jujitsu and I consider it very low odds of helping me in the street because street people don't fight fair. I learned this when I was 16. I got my cheekbone broken. I had to go to the hospital. I got my nose shattered. Why I got in a street fight? A guy was bullying my friend Josh Stahl. It was in the projects in Raleigh, North Carolina. Believe it or not, the South, like Raleigh, got projects worse than damn Long Beach. Don't play around in North Carolina, Atlanta, Maryland, Louisiana. Anyway, there was a place, I think it was called Worthdale. It was a projects, and a guy attacked my friend, and I protected my friend, got in a fist fight, was totally winning the fight, and a dude I'll never forget, I was on top of him, like in mount position. Wow, he grabbed me in the balls. And he fucking pulled me. And when someone grabs you in the balls, you roll right off. I rolled off, and he was older than me. He was like 18. I was like 15. And he shattered my cheekbone. He like hit me like 10 times. That was the beginning of the introduction.
Talk about not being fair.
No, but honestly, jiu-jitsu has rules.
Yeah.
In real life, a dude scratch you, break your fingers. I mean, don't get me wrong. All respect to jiu-jitsu. One of my mentors is Horion Gracie. He invented the USC. His father invented. I got my belt, my blue belt under Higa Machado. He's the cousin of the Gracie. His uncle invented jiu-jitsu. All respect, but still have bodyguards if you're famous carrying guns out when you walk around.
Or go live in a farm.
Or go live in a farm and have guns.
Yeah.
I got lots of guns on the farm.
Lots of guns.
Conor McGregor's bodyguard that you see walking around him, that used to be mine. He's a law enforcement. I go out and people didn't know he had a gun. I like what Chris Rock says. I don't go to the gym. I get a gun. I don't have muscles. I have bullets, brother. So
You're not hiring gang members to be your bodyguard?
no, that's what Suge Knight did. Big Rome told me, he's like, Suge Knight used to roll up the clubs back in Rome. Big Rome that people see on my social. He was bodyguard for. He was my two guys, Craig and Rome, were working when when Biggie got shot. After it was Tupac first, then Biggie, and so they've been around security. They used to be security for Prince's Club downtown L.A. And he's like, dude, Suge Knight used to roll up and he would with like 40 Bloods. And he's like, even the police were like, let this dude in. You can't fight 40 Bloods, especially back in the like early 2000s, late 90s when gangs were strong. Even the police were like, but Suge Knight's now in prison because gang members take it too far.
Yeah.
I grew up around that. My dad was at Terminal Island. I would go visit my dad in Long Beach, and those big gangbanger dudes out there, big Samoan guys and all that. That's why I say you win fights. There's strength in numbers and guns. But jujitsu is great for building your testosterone. That's what I tell men. Like my friend Zach, he had relatively, rest in peace, he had, lower testosterone than he wanted. And he traveled with me for a year and a half, did all my training. He would do jujitsu, and grappling makes your fight or flight system basically say you need to be masculine as a man so you can fight another man. Jiu-jitsu is even better than boxing for raising testosterone. And his testosterone, we would test it twice a year. It went up about 200 points, his total testosterone.
Sweet. Yeah. I mean, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, those are really good life skills. Just,
yes.
For business too. Learning how to deal with, when a man's choking you and feeling the desperation and like the feeling of I'm about to go out, I'm helpless. How do I get myself here?
I don't like that feeling. I've had that once or twice in my life. I don't like to be choked out.
I'm a
tap early, man. Yeah. Tap early. It's not healthy to get choked out very often.
Yeah.
In jiu-jitsu, I remember this is why I don't roll with white belts. One dude, you're practicing rear, Mata de Leon, I think they call it in Brazil, the lion death. And you're, dude, I'm like, this motherfucker ain't gonna stop. We're like tapping, he keeps going and put me out. I don't like that feeling.
Yeah, he's trying to prove something.
I'm like, brother, I'm gonna smack you in the head with a 2x4. Like, try your jujitsu, I'm gonna break your nose. Anyway, yeah.
But it's good that you grew up in, Southern California like me.
Yeah. And now I moved to North Carolina when I was 13.
Mm-hmm. But I had a question about being living with the Amish.
Yes.
And I was telling him, like, I have a theory about why you do that.
Okay.
Just from my time with you, spending time with you, the extreme places that you're in, and where you've taken your mind, where you're here in Beverly Hills thinking about the next move for a marketing strategy, and then all these screens all around you and thinking about what's next for your business, which is very complex, without slowing that down to a place of simplicity,
right?
Which is something that I seek. Like, I'm super interested in going and like having a family, stay with an Amish family or live there for many months.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like what I'm teaching right now, because after I sold my cannabis company, all I want to do is focus on things that I love and enjoy, which is fitness.
Yep.
But particularly men that are in my category, which is 35 and up.
Yep.
And men that have lost weight and gained it back, because I've done like 5 body transformations already.
Okay.
And I've had my own ups and downs of yo-yo dieting.
Yeah.
And after those 5 body transformations, I've come to the conclusion of what I know on how to keep the weight off for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Like, I have the secret to that. And part of that is simplifying things down to a very bare minimum. Like, for example, you know those shows like Naked and Afraid?
Yeah.
Where they send people, and this is in connection to the Amish. You send a human out in the woods,
Canadian Saskatchewan,
for like 4 months.
Yeah.
And say you have to fend for yourself.
Yes.
And then they'll get to a point in the show where like it'd be like a month of no eating.
Yes.
And you see they've already lost 20 pounds of fat. And there's that moment I seen this guy pick up a log, and he gets surprised, and he sees a larva,
a
fat larva. and he grabs it, puts it in his mouth, and you see him bite into it, and all the pus comes out.
Yeah.
And everyone that's watching goes, ugh.
Yeah.
But he's going, oh.
Yeah.
And to him, it's like pizza.
Yeah. Hey, when you meet somebody picky, you're like, you just had never been hungry enough. There's no one picky when you're hungry enough.
I think you can do that with everything.
Honor party.
You can do that with everything in your life.
Right.
You can do it with, like, my children don't watch TV.
Right.
So when we go to the mall and they see just like a Nike ad on the
Yes.
in some
They're mesmerized by it. Yeah.
you can't pull them off of that.
Yeah.
It's just a commercial.
Yes.
Whereas today there's just so much force feeding of
Yes.
like screens and sugar and
Yep.
such. My
Yeah.
kids-
Go ahead. Yeah.
yeah. So like to your point about Amish,
Yes.
hitting a reset button
Yes.
and getting your brain back to a
Yes.
place that's much more natural and organic. That's probably why I'm thinking you're fascinated with being with them.
Yeah, I have a farm. One of my farms now, the Amish manage a farm. I've got 2 farms. I got farm managers. One farm is more, we have regular tractors and bigger farm. Then I have an Amish farm that's a couple hundred acres, and the Amish are my neighbors and help run the farm, and we use horses and no tractors. So yeah, I would say for most people, I was lucky. I started as a teenager living off grid, no electricity and things like that. When I lived with Joel Salatin, who, by the way, best news of this whole election cycle, Joel Salatin, my first mentor, and I still do business with him and on the farm, and he just got made one of the 5 advisors to the new Secretary of Agriculture. So Joel Salatin is the most famous sustainable regenerative farmer in the world, pioneered a lot of the ways you grow grass-fed beef and rejuvenating the land without chemicals and pesticides and chemical fertilizers. And so that's great news that no matter what you think about the presidency, you do not want the people who have been running the USDA in power, putting down Roundup, glyphosate all over the water system. There's glyphosate in water, which is basically, that's the generic name of Roundup. On a farm, you call it Roundup. They use it to spray everything and then plant modern GMOs, soybeans, corn, and so on. My farms, like Joel's, are we use no chemicals, or we use old-fashioned stuff that works. I use a crop rotation that the Amish brought from Germany in the 1500s. It's about a 500-year-old crop rotation. Corn, oats. Then after the oats, you plant wheat. Underneath the wheat, you put in alfalfa, undersow, and then you get sod. I do an extended 7-year rotation like they do in Argentina. So I've taken the best of the old school and the new school, but it's a 7-year rotation. Anyway, for the average person, if you haven't lived in the countryside, you should step into it slowly. Go live on a farm for a week. Go back to
I
the
don't do
city.
anything. I want to go.
You're an extremist.
I'm like
A lot of entrepreneurs. That's their strength and
but
weakness.
I teach this too because I deal with men that are 20 pounds overweight plus, and we only take clients that have lost weight and gained it back.
Right.
So
you're extremist dealing with extremists.
Exactly. And so my strategy towards losing weight and keeping it off for the rest of your life is to, if you've made an extreme choice to get that fat, you have to make an extreme choice in the opposite, which is you can't just lose weight. You have to become a fitness impersonario.
Right. So you're like, change your identity.
When I got arrested at 18, they took me to Twin Towers for armed robbery.
Yep.
I remember I was so involved in gang activity in Los Angeles that I knew, first of all, I realized what I wanted was not to be in the cell anymore.
Yeah.
With all these rapists and killers and such.
Yeah.
And luckily I was 18 when it happened. But when
Is that what KK is? Is that a gang?
It's my grandma's initials.
Oh, okay.
But she was vital in getting me out of jail. Like, she can't raise money for a lawyer.
Because I was like, is that KKK? Well, yeah. The whites.
I need to get one.
You're Asian. Were you in the Asian gangs?
I was in a Filipino gang
in LA,
in Los Angeles. Yeah.
What area?
This area. Well, right up the street here.
Yeah.
And Beverly Hills is like Beverly Hills, but right here it's like Fairfax and like.
What were the Filipino gangs? I grew up around a lot of gang stuff.
There's a lot of Filipino gangs. I'm in one of the oldest ones.
Were they Bloods and Crips?
No.
Off that there?
They can't.
Because I grew up, there was like
Northern California.
Okay. Yeah, I grew up, there was like Grape Street, it was like Crips, and then I lived down in San Diego. There's what were they called? West Side Piru or whatever. They used to wear green. A lot of that's part of why my mom wanted to leave Southern California. There was so much gangs in the school. Like there was a school in San Diego, Madison, I was going to go to. It was like 17 cops there, full metal detectors, gang. I saw my first person shot when I was 5. It's actually a little bit north of Long Beach. My uncle was getting married. It was at his wedding. I shouldn't laugh about it, but Yeah. So what are the Filipino? What's the name of the Filipino gangs?
Well, my gang was STS, Satanas.
Yeah.
Then there's BNG. There's Pinoy Real was our biggest rivals. They're right here in Atwater.
Okay.
But 90s was a bloody
Yeah.
time.
So was the Filipinos mostly fighting other Filipino gangs?
Pretty much. And
Yeah.
Temple Street was a Mexican gang.
Yeah.
And
It's ironic because Mexican and Filipinos are like related to each other because Filipinos are basically Asian mixed with with Spanish, We got that same common ancestor.
Yeah.
My dad grew up in Spanish Harlem and he always told me, he's like, I was the Puerto Rican. My dad's part Puerto Rican. He's like, it's the Puerto Ricans and the blacks against the Italians and against the Irish. So my dad was born in Harlem before you had the modern, it was more like mobster stuff. So, but my dad didn't talk much, he went to prison. He went for drug stuff related to organized crime. But my dad don't talk much. He never, I don't know what the gangs were called back then. He's born in Spanish Harlem, which is I think it's like 119th and Lexington or something like that. It's interesting. It's a nicer area because it's on Central Park.
yeah.
So New York is like the origin of a lot of that stuff. And then it came over here. California had, what's the guy's name? Tukey or whatever invented the Crips or something like that.
Tukey Williams.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I remember it's funny, when I used to live, we wanted to play a video game called Street Fighter when I was like 13, and the 7-Eleven had Street Fighter. And my friend Joe, Joe, where we were, there was gangs, and they would all hang out at the parking lot at 7-Eleven. We were only like 12 or 13. But he had this ding-dong German Shepherd that wouldn't have bit anybody, but it was kind of a big German Shepherd mixed with like a lab. So it was actually too nice. But it didn't like if you would go like this with the leash. It would go to tell you to stop. So my friend Joe, we wanted to get in to watch Street Fighter. We walked at 7-Eleven, and when it got near the gang guys, all it was black gangs there. Black guys don't like dogs. He would shake the leash a little and go, and all the gang guys would go across the street, and we could go into our 7-Eleven. I'd save up $20 in quarters and play Street Fighter, man. It's funny. Gangs are just like gone. They lock down, and it's like if you wear any kind of colors, you go to prison or go to jail. They start arresting everybody. And now there's a theory that's very controversial. If you read the book Freakonomics, one of the theories why crime dropped in the 90s, there was a time where they said if crime at this rate is going to be out of control in America, and then it went way down and then over the 90s. And Bill Clinton said it was because he improved things. And Giuliani said it was my policing. The book Freakonomics by this economist said no. It was from abortions in the 70s. Abortion became legalized. And the people who have the most abortions are poor people that are more likely to have kids who became criminals. So he says if you do, and criminals do the most criminal activity between age 15 and 25. So if you count back 15 to 25 years after the legalization of abortion, he says that is why crime dropped, because you killed off or aborted the kids who would have been most likely to become criminals. Very controversial. Now, people who are more Christian or right are like, no, abortion doesn't do any good. People on the left are like, well, look at the Freakonomics stacks. Some people, of course, like anything, people say, oh, I got better science than you. But it's an interesting theory. Whatever happened, you don't see gangs like you used to.
No.
I mean, it was people don't understand. It was a big thing in California.
And I wasn't like a normal gang member. I was like super active.
Yeah.
And that's why I knew when I got released out of some technicality.
Yeah.
I was going to face 9 years at 18.
Yeah.
Because I got hit with a pretty drastic charge.
Armed robbery stuff?
Armed robbery.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right up here.
Yeah.
Close by, like 10 minutes from here where I got arrested. My thought process when I was getting released was if I get out and I just kind of not hang out with my friends anymore, I'm just going to go back full blown.
Yeah, you're an extremist, man.
Just like any addiction. I'm a very addictive personality.
Mom or dad, this is genetic. Who's also like that?
Uncle,
grandpa.
Grandma.
Really?
Yeah, grandma.
See, my dad was an alcoholic.
I mean, my dad got murdered when I was a baby. So
really? Sorry to hear.
I never knew him.
Did he tell you? Did you learn much about him? You should learn about it. Was he addicted personality? Was it gang stuff?
Gang stuff.
See, I'm telling you. So if you talk to scientists like Dr. David Buss, evolutionary and genetic people, there's a cluster of genes which predicts criminality. So it's not a guarantee just because a kid's born to two criminal parents, but there's a much higher likelihood because of things. It's a cluster of genes, not one gene. So, for example, addiction also is highly correlated with criminal activity, not just because addicts go rob for their heroin fix. Like sadly, my second youngest brother, I have 6 brothers, half brothers, and one of them's he's the nicest guy, been a heroin addict since he's 14, on and off. He worked for me for 3 years and got totally clean. And then he's like, I told him he can't hang out with any of the old heroin friends. He started dating a girl and he's like, Taj, it'll be fine. She's also recovering. I'm like, don't date this girl. Because number one, if you are a drug addict, if possible, try to not have a child with another drug addict. I know it's going to be very controversial. People are going to be mad. Just hear me out. Genes do have an effect. Now, if 2 drug addicts have a child, it's not a guarantee, and I would never say that, but shit, if you got a choice, and I told my brother, don't date this girl. Within 6 months, he relapsed, and it's been 5 years. He's homeless now, and I can't help him because I can't find him.
I still have a thought process, like, even if you have in your genes, medically, biologically, you're set to have certain characteristics about you, I still believe that you can make choices
Sure.
that will count. Actually,
Sure. Environment still matters. It's not like if both your parents are drug addicts.
but also leadership too. Like,
Environment matters too. And just like a kid can be born to parents with no addiction and become an addict. But it's just, if you look at large groups, that for every 1,000 people that are born with both parents being addicts is going to be much more addiction. And some of it's environmental too, but in general, it's very genetic. In fact, let's see. Hey, Siri, what's the heritability of addiction? So it'll give you, see, it's like up to 60%. So out of 1,000 people, okay, that are addicts,
yeah,
you can predict that 60% of the reason in that 1,000 people they're addicts is their parents, not their environment. If they had never met their addict parents, they were orphans, they would still have a higher, just like you never met your dad. And I didn't grow up with my dad. And so you got to be careful who, people should think about. So if you're an addict, try to have kids with somebody who wasn't an addict, and you reduce the odds. Again, people get super mad about this and they say it's eugenics and all that. I'm like, humans already, when you're attracted to someone sexually, you're already making a genetic selection. You're attracted to them because there's something primitive in you that's seeing their genetics at an unconscious level. That's why, guys cannot figure out why 5'1" women want a 6'1" guy. They're like, well, guys who are like 5'5" are like, well, she should like me. She's 5'1". No, of course, a 5'1" woman is more interested in a 6'4" guy because she's trying to offset her damn genes at an unconscious level. So she's unconsciously more sexually attracted. That's why if you're a medium-sized guy, go after tall women, because unconsciously they already carry the genes. It's easier if you're a 5'7" dude, 5'6", 5'8", 5'9". You're easier sometimes to date a 5'11" woman than a 5'1", because the 5'11" one unconsciously or maybe consciously realizes I got tall genes. Even if I have kids with this dude, it'll offset out. But a 5'1" woman is gonna. You see 5'1" women all over social media. Gotta be 6'1", and guys can't figure it out because guys don't understand biology. Of course, if you're so us going back to this, if you are addictive personality, specifically try to find someone.
basically what you're saying is control your environment, knowing the truth.
Offset yourself back. If you're a high anxiety person, why would you marry somebody like you who has high anxiety? Why? So you could have the most high anxiety family, no, offset. And people often do this. Extroverts are, I'm an extrovert. I do not, in hindsight, my best relationships were introverts every time. We seek balance in our mating and sexual proclivities.
Right.
Not always, but in the general pattern of humans,
Just like I can't be with a masculine woman.
Yeah, you're a masculine dude. And probably, if you're a masculine guy, probably feminine women are going to be more attracted to you.
I can't do it, man.
Yeah.
With a masculine woman. But going back to, I think someone with an addictive personality,
Yeah,
can use that as a superpower.
sure. Get addicted to the right thing. Get addicted to making money. Get addicted to, sprinting. Get addicted to jujitsu. Get addicted to most firefighters. People who have extreme personalities are Navy SEALs, high in psychopathy, but they use their psychopath tendencies for good.
Yeah.
Psychopaths have low fear, so you want a firefighter who's low fear. You don't want to imagine a firefighter comes to your house. You need help. You're at the 3rd floor of the apartment building, and do you want a firefighter who's like high anxiety? Well, if I go in there, I might get burned if I save it. No, you want a dude who's a psychopath who goes, "I'm fine.
Yeah.
Nothing hurts me." You want a delusional psychopath. So yeah, you gotta match your vices with something virtuous.
Well, right when I got out of jail, I said the first thing I have to do is sign up to be a gang counselor.
Yeah.
Because how stupid would that be if I'm doing some bullshit gang activity, being a gang counselor?
Right.
And just to help me, because I was addicted to being a gang member. Like,
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Something I wanted to do with my job. Something that I pushed.
You're high dopamine. You like the adventure.
Oh, yeah.
That's why a lot of dudes who became police officers, they were very close to becoming criminals. They say when you look at the psychology of a good police officer, it's millimeter away from being a criminal. They like high dopamine. They're bored. They like action. They like adventure. They don't mind confrontation. So that's why I said there's a fine line where you drug addicts. It's called adaptive traits. Adaptive, a scientist like Dr. Robert Tribus, the founder of modern evolutionary biology from Harvard, he says we have these traits that are adaptive. That means in the right circumstances, they're very helpful. For example, men are, let's say, anywhere from 5 to 10 times more likely, depending on which study you read, to be a psychopath. Why? Well, in the last 10,000 generations of humans, when somebody broke into your village, you need a dude who's like, I'm gonna stab a motherfucker in the face. And then why do women tend to have lower psychopathy on a Levinson psychopathy scale? Because in the last 10,000 generations of humans, you needed women who were very sensitive to the needs of the village. And you got to have some division of labor. There was women warriors, and there were Apache women were warriors and Comanches. They used to skin people alive. But almost always, if you take 1,000 humans, you can predict the 1,000 men are much more psychopathic than if you looked at the last 1,000 serial killers on Wikipedia, it's like 950 men and 50 women. Now, one guy said that's because the women are too good at hiding it. But I don't think so. That's not quite how it works. It's just that men carry an adaptive positive gene that in the wrong environment is a crime. If you were a Viking, they used to have these dudes named berserkers. Berserker guys in the middle of battle. You wanted a berserker on your side. You just wanted him on your side. So you get off the boat. Remember, the Vikings are basically Germanic tribes that migrated up into Norway, and some of them made it into Finland and Sweden. And they would go, and they eventually got down to Ukraine, and they followed the rivers. And when they were down there, and they're like, we're going to go take that village and take all the women and take all the plunder and everything, they'd be like, thank God we have Bob the Berserker. Because these guys would go nuts in battle, no fear, take a club, swing it around their head. They could have lost an arm. They were still going berserk. And every single man has a friend who you're like, this motherfucker was a berserker.
My friend BJ.
Dude, everyone has a friend.
I remember learning from him because we'd be out in Hollywood in the 90s.
Yes.
And there'd be a bunch of guys. There'd be a bunch of guys against us bunch of guys.
Yeah.
And he's a type, and he's not that big.
It's always the little guys.
Yeah.
That's how he survived. I mean, everybody's afraid of that little
7.
dude. Yes.
And there's no talking. He just goes for it. And every time, I would say 9 out of 10, when he rushes 10 guys,
yes,
they freaked out and they run.
Yes.
One time, I didn't work out for him.
Yeah, and they get
pounded. But 9 times
that's why not all men are berserkers, because in an evolutionary stable system, if too many men are berserkers, the other side learns to call the bluff and kills them. So you need only like 5% berserkers.
I learned so much from him.
But by the way, he was sexually attractive to women too. A 5'6" man generally is not sexually attractive to most women in most countries now. But if he's a berserker, then a woman's unconscious mind goes, I'm getting high courage man.
Yeah.
My sons, it's called the sexy son theory of reproduction. Women interpret, well, okay, I sleep with this guy. My son's more likely to have high courage. Women find courage sexy, and men find courage in other men admirable. So that's why that gene persists, but you can't have too many of them.
But not having a father, like you have these characters in your life
Yes.
that you learn from how to be a man.
Right.
He was one of them. I remember I have a cartel story.
Yeah.
Because I just came back from the cannabis company.
Okay.
I just sold my cannabis company.
Yeah, I don't know if you, it's like after your background, should you have been in the cannabis business?
Well, there's so much black market, gray market, white market, because it's not official yet.
Yeah.
There's no banking. Anyhow, there has to be a cartel story somewhere in
Yes.
in the
We're
midst of it.
talking Mexican cartel. We're talking Colombian cartel.
California's got
Oh,
to be
California. Yeah, it's Mexican. Okay.
man.
I'm careful of Mexicans, dude. Mexicans don't play.
Man, well, and I'm going to attribute this to my learning from BJ,
Yeah.
who taught me how to be a berserker because it
Yeah.
saved my life. Up in Butte County, which is just below, or just above San Jose,
Yep.
and below Sacramento, there's just hundreds of thousands of acres of forest there.
Yes.
And right when California, 2016, right when it was about to be legal, but had this MRSA law that people could grow, but still kind of not get in trouble, but it was still against a lot of sell. There are guys out there that were growing like 20 acres of marijuana at a time, using licenses that were meant for patients, but still selling on the black market. So to move that amount of weed,
Yes.
you needed cartel help for distribution. And I remember just getting into the cannabis business. I wanted to learn everything I needed to learn before I invested any money. I had a friend of mine that had one of these 20-acre facilities that was outdoor.
Mm-hmm.
Him and another partner named Bobby. I'm going to mention his name because they needed 200. I walked into a meeting where they needed 200 grand just to cover 1 week of payroll.
Okay.
They had hundreds of men knocking down sides of mountains with caterpillars, just making fields and fields of marijuana. And they told me the terms: 200 grand. We'll pay you back your 200 grand in 1 week, and then the next week another 200 grand.
Okay.
And we'll teach you how to do the cannabis business.
Okay.
And so I was all in for it. I gave them my 200 grand. And I was working on the farm with them. And the next week, I never got my 200 grand.
Yeah.
As we move along, they're saying, Sean, we'll get you your money. And in November, which is a month away, we'll give you another $1 million. So I'm all for this because I really want to learn about the cannabis business. So I continue moving forward, and I'm just happy just to learn about the cannabis business during this time. And during the time that I was working they had tents that were out in the middle of nowhere. And it was the first time I ever had to take a shit in the forest with no. It was like my first experience of a lot of these things. But I'm one that whenever I get into a business, I want to learn every aspect of the business before I delegate this out to people. And so I started from they wanted to put me in a management position. I said, I want to start from the bottom. So I was living on the tents with all these guys that were doing all this labor. And every night, a caravan of Range Rovers would drive up, and it would always be led by this guy named Jose. And me and Jose got to get along because Jose had a broken finger. And I remember, hey, what's up, Jose? Oh, hey, how'd you break your finger? Oh, I was doing Muay Thai, man. I love Muay Thai. Really? I teach jiu-jitsu up in Sacramento. Oh, yeah. So me and Jose got along really, really well. And so once it got time, that was November, and I still haven't got my first 200 grand back, I start calling these guys. And I'm like, hey, where's my money? And where's my $1 million? And I've been working here, but I'm learning a lot about the cannabis business, but no money yet. And that was my first real introduction into the cannabis business, about how shady it is, how you can't sue anybody. There's no contracts. You can't take someone to court or have some civil lawsuit. And I remember just no more text back. And I go to my mutual friend who has one of these cannabis supply stores, and I roll up on, after 22 weeks of him not calling me back either, I roll up on him, and he says, Bobby's not returning my phone calls either. So I can tell already he knows what I'm here to look for him for. And so I said, we got to talk. I pull him into the office, and I keep him in there for like 4 hours saying, you better pay me my money. Finally, after 4 hours of interrogating him, he goes to his safe, gets 75 grand. He said, this is all the money I have. I go, where's the rest of my money? And he says, why don't you just go to Bobby's house and go get the money from him, which is another 3-hour drive into the forest. And I'm like, perfect, because I lived in Sacramento at the time. Driving in deep in the forest took about 2 hours, and I had to go another 3 hours into the forest. So I take my 75 grand from him. I'm driving into the forest. As I pull out of his parking lot, my phone rings. and it's Bobby. I go, hello? And he says, hey, you coming to my house? I go, yeah. He goes, perfect. Click. And I'm like, perfect. Now, I'm coming from owning my autism school for 15 years, jumping into the cannabis business, took street life out of my life for so long, and just realizing that, hey, it's perfect. He's saying perfect because he has my money.
Yeah, you
Not realizing
on the perfect.
Yeah, perfect.
Perfect. Oh, I got you set up.
I'm about to walk into an ambush.
Yeah.
This is a perfect example of me going from one extreme of like street life.
Were you by yourself?
I was by myself,
Yeah,
no
no
gun, no nothing, just walking like, dude, oh, he's got my money. So I'm driving deep into the forest, and by the time I'm 1 hour in, my reception's gone already. I get to his house, which I've been to many times. He has one of those houses in the middle of the forest that you have to open it manually with a bodyguard. He has a bodyguard that opens the gate. His driveway is 2 miles deep through more forest, no reception for hours. And as I pull up, the bodyguard says, Bobby will be here in 30 minutes. Just hang out here. And I'm like, I knew the bodyguard too. Me and him are friends. We're sitting down chilling. And Bobby's truck comes up. And sitting inside the truck was Jose in the passenger side and Bobby. Jose comes out, and I do, as I always do with Jose, I walk up to him. Hey, what's up? I go like this. What's up, Jose? And as I go like this to shake his hand, he goes, nah, like that. Like he doesn't want to shake my hand. And already I'm sensing these body language cues that something's up here. Jose's not acting like normal Jose. He's not cool to me. And he says, we don't shake hands with people that try to extort us. And I'm like, you owe me money. And so I'm sensing the tables are turning through some misunderstanding of money. And so in that moment, BJ comes into my mind, Berserker.
Yes.
I remember just doing this. I step back and I go, what's up, then? How's this? And when I did that, the wheels in Jose's mind were turning like, this guy's about to go berserker on me.
Yes.
And he goes, nah, like that, and turns his back on me. So he went from like trying to be aggressive with me to turning his back on me. Kind of like how you see dogs that are trying to be aggressive with a dog, and then the dog calls
bark back. Yeah.
So then as I did that, Bobby comes out of the driver's side, and he has a box. And he comes out and says, hey, Sean, put the tailgate down. And I look at Jose and I go, bitch. And I walk to the back of the tailgate. I put it down. Bobby puts the box on the tailgate, and he reaches in like he's going to grab some money, and he pulls out a gun and points it in my face like that. And he goes, why are you trying to extort me? And I go, again, you owe me money. What's up with this? And the moment he did that, I remember another friend of mine who was a berserker in a different way. He taught me 80% of men that will point a gun at you won't shoot you.
Right.
And in that moment, I had to pull that card and say, and I put my head up to the barrel of the gun. I said, shoot me.
Yeah.
And he was shaking. And at that moment, I didn't think he wanted to shoot me, but I think he accidentally might.
Right.
And so I had to play this like teeter-totter of,
yes,
shoot me. I'm going to pull your card
too long,
but I'm not going to get too close to make you jump and accidentally shoot me. And it took about 3 minutes of me telling him to shoot me.
Yeah.
Like probably 20 times. And I hear in the corner of my ear, Jose says, make him dig his own grave. And I remember when he said that, then
you're like, oh.
Then BJ comes back in my mind again. And I back up because the bodyguard was behind me. Jose's here. Bobby's here with a gun. And I back up to get them all on my sight.
Yeah.
And I said, why don't you guys just line up right now and let's just go one on one.
Yeah.
And once I said that, Bobby goes, there's $175,000 in this box. Get this and get the fuck out of here and don't ever come back. He had my money the whole time.
Huh.
And so I took my box and I got in my minivan and drove home.
You were in a minivan. So my question was, you didn't decide to call it quits after that? You're like, I'm gonna get out of this business.
I don't know what it was. I think it's because I was retired for 10 years.
Yeah.
And
you might like the rush.
Definitely.
This is never out of you. Like my dad got out of prison. He became a Christian, would go to Calvary Chapel Church. But every once in a while, one time he knocked somebody in a road rage, knocked a guy out. But I was like, I've learned one thing. A dude who goes to prison never quite recovers. Brother, you could see it in their eyes. A man who goes to prison for a few years. Now, if you go to jail for a week or something, but you go too long, you're never quite the same. Look at Mike Tyson. He was in, this crazy fighter before, but after prison, he spent 7 years there. I saw that in my dad. I'm always like, be careful with the dude who went to prison. They have learned to go berserk. They've learned to switch. You know, the switch where dudes act tough, like, oh, you want to fight? You want to fight? Prison dudes have learned we skip that stage.
Yeah.
We go straight to the brawl.
Yeah.
So that's what happened to my dad. My dad, a car, they were like road rage, and my dad got out of the car, and the guy rolled the window down. Big mistake. Yelled at and my dad was like 55 by this time, but my dad was a pro bodybuilder, and the guy goes, "What?" And my dad knocked him out in one hit. The guy should have never. If a guy comes to your car, don't stay in the seatbelt. You're vulnerable. And then my dad came back in the car, and he's like, I should have never done that. I'm a Christian now. He was telling my brothers. It was pretty funny. He's like, I made a mistake. Never do that. Don't listen to me. And he went to like Calvary Chapel. He used to tell me.